Election expenditure monitoring. Role of returning officer. Disclaimer. This training material is for use in training of election officials. It should not be referred as guideline of ECI. In case of any variance in this training material, the Commission guidelines, rules, law shall prevail. Learning outcomes. At the end of the session, the participants will be able to explain the importance of election expenditure monitoring in conduction of free and fair election. They will be able to know the roles and responsibilities of DO and RO in EEM. Describe roles and responsibilities of various teams set up under the expenditure monitoring. Familiarize with the SOPs, proformas, formats used by various teams. Familiarize with the different situation and how to handle them. Know about legal provisions related to election expenditure monitoring. They will also be able to know about the election expenditure monitoring protocols and framework set up by the Commission to ensure a level playing field during the polls. Historical background. Election Commission of India, for curbing the menace of bribery of voters and other corrupt practices in election, introduced election expenditure monitoring for the first time in Bihar Legislative Assembly elections held in 2010. Why we need election expenditure monitoring? To conduct free, fair, transparent and peaceful election by monitoring misuse of money and muscle power, legal expenditure within the permissible limit, maintaining a truthful account, providing level playing field for all the stakeholders. What are the types of election expenditure? Election expenditure can be classified into two types: legal expenditure and illegal expenditure. Legal expenditure are permissible under the law, such as expenditure in public meetings, posters, banners, vehicles, etc. They should be within the limit. Illegal expenditure such as distribution of money, gifts, liquor or any other item among electors with the purpose of influencing them. We should stop such illegal expenditure. Various types of expenditure under the legal category and illegal category are shown on the screen. What is the ceiling of expenditure? For the parliamentary constituencies, the states having the limit of 70 lakh, now it is raised to 95 lakhs. And for the states having the limit of 54 lakhs has been raised to 75 lakhs. Similarly, for the assembly constituencies, the limit is 40 lakh and 28 lakh. Legal provisions. Now we will see various legal provisions which are important in election expenditure monitoring. First, we will see the sections under the RP Act 1951. Section 10A. It is about disqualification for failure to lodge account of election expenses. 3 years from the date of order. Section 77(1). Account of election expenses and maximum thereof. Section 77(1). Explanation 1. Expenditure incurred by the leaders of political parties. Section 77(1). Explanation 2. It is about leaders of political parties, that is, star campaigners. Section 78. Lodging of account with the district election officer within 30 days from the date of declaration of result. Section 123 is about corrupt practices in the election. Section 127A. Restriction on the printing of pamphlet, poster, handbills, etc. Now we will see Conduct of Election Rules of 1961. Rule 86 is about Particulars of account of election expenses. Rule 87. Notice by the district election officer for inspection of accounts. Rule 88. Inspection of account and the obtaining of copies thereof. Rule 89. Report by the district election officer as to lodging of the account of election expenses and the decision of the election commission thereon. Rule 90. Maximum election expenses. Now we will see the provisions under the Indian Penal Code 1860. Section 171B, it is about bribery. Section 171C, undue influence at an election. Section 171E, punishment for bribery. Section 171F, punishment for undue influence or the personation at an election. Section 171H, illegal payments in connection with an election. Section 171I, failure to keep election accounts. Election expenditure, case laws. In Common Cause versus Union of India and others, the Honorable Supreme Court held that lodging of expenditure accounts by the political party within 75 days of the assembly elections and within 90 days for Lok Sabha elections. In Kamalal Gupta versus Amarnath Chawla, the Honorable Court says that there should be a distinction expenditure between the expenditure done by the political party and the expenditure done by the candidate of that party. In Rahim Khan versus Khurshid Ahmed and others, the Honorable Court says that there should be strict enforcement of Section 127A of RP Act in 1951. In Ella Shivarama Gowde versus T.M. Chandrasekhar, the Honorable Court held that the Election Commission of India can go into the correctness of the account of elections filed by the candidate, and the Commission can disqualify a candidate under the Section 10A of RP Act in 1951 on the ground if the candidate does not lodge an account of election expenses within the time and in the manner. The account lodged by the candidate is incorrect and untrue. The similar view was held by the Honorable Court for the Ashok Shankarrao Chauhan versus Dr. Madharao Kalankar, Madhu Kora versus Election Commission of India, Umlesh Yadav versus Election Commission of India. Expenditure monitoring mechanism. Separate bank account for the candidate. Separate bank accounts to be opened by each candidate for election expenditure anytime at least one day before the date on which the candidate intends to file his nomination papers. The bank account can be opened anywhere in the state. The accounts can be opened in any of the banks, including cooperative banks or in the post offices. It can be opened in joint name of the candidate and election agent. This bank account cannot be opened jointly by the candidate with the spouse or other relatives if they are not the election agents of the candidate. At the time of filing of nomination, the candidate will communicate with account number of this bank account to the returning officer in writing. All the election expenses of the candidate should be met from this bank account. If the separate bank account is not opened before nomination for election expenses, or any amount is spent without depositing the same in the said bank account, it will be treated that the candidate has not maintained the account in the manner prescribed. Candidate can have a separate agent for election expenses to incur all expenses by the account pay check if payment to a single party during the election process exceeds Rs 10,000. To submit the copy of the bank account along with the expenditure statements after 30 days of declaration of the result. Information from banks. Any transactions from accounts of candidates over 1 lakh. Use of bank accounts for multiple transactions to other accounts. This information is passed on to the income tax department. Maintenance of account register. The candidate has to maintain 3 registers: day-to-day account register, cash register, and bank register. In the day-to-day account of the election expenses in a register, giving the details of the expenditure incurred authorized by political party, any other political party, any other association, organization, body supporting him, any other individual supporting him. The candidate should also account for all the expenditure, including those incurred prior to the date of nomination for preparation of campaign materials, etc., which are actually used during the post-nomination period in connection with the election. Inspection of accounts of the candidate. Candidates are required to produce their accounts for inspection 3 times before the expenditure observer. The format of white register is shown on the screen. The format of cash register is shown on the screen. The format of a bank register is shown on the screen. Expenditure monitoring machinery. Various machineries which works for the expenditure monitoring are expenditure observer, assistant expenditure observer, flying squad team, static surveillance team, video surveillance team, video viewing team, accounting team, excise team, media certification and monitoring committee. Expenditure observer. They are responsible for overall supervision of expenditure monitoring. They are deployed for specified constituencies to observe the election expenses incurred by the candidates. They will inspect the expenditure register of each candidate at least 3 times during the campaign period and give their comments on the discrepancies. Visits of expenditure observer. First visit. On the day of notification of elections for the duration of 3 days and meet all the teams engaged in the election expenditure monitoring. They shall submit the poll preparedness report. Second visit. On the day of immediately after the date of withdrawal of candidature and shall remain in the constituency during the entire campaign period and shall leave the constituency only after the poll. Third visit. On the 25th day after the date of declaration of result and stay in the district for 8 days to assess the district election officer in scrutinizing the statements of the account of election expenditure submitted by the candidates after the declaration of results. Expenditure observer will inspect functioning of different teams engaged in expenditure monitoring and inspect the accounts of candidates. They will coordinate with various law enforcement agencies of the income tax, police, BSF, SSB, state excise and DRI. Assistant expenditure observer. They will be appointed for each constituency on the date of notification of election by the district election officer. If a change is suggested by the expenditure observer, the same shall be carried out. The assistant expenditure observer shall be of the rank of Group V officer or equivalent in other central government services. They will maintain the shadow observation register and folder of evidence. They will supervise and ensure all complaints are addressed with respect to the election expenditure. They will coordinate with the returning officer's office on campaign activities of the candidate. They will assist expenditure observer in inspection of accounts. Flying squad team. FST are those teams which monitor movement of money and muscle power during the election period. FST are also formed with the aim to ensure holding of free, fair, peaceful election without any compromise. The FST is headed by executive magistrate having 3 to 4 police officials and a videographer. There will be 3 or more FSTs per assembly constituencies. They will work from the date of announcement of election till the completion of poll. In expenditure sensitive constituencies, there can be more than 3 teams. Action on complaints by the FST. On receiving any complaint from Assistant Expenditure Observer, FST or SST shall report to him about the action taken. Vehicles used by the flying squad shall be fitted with the GPRS system. CCTV camera, web camera, video camera for recording seizure and interception made by the FST. Static surveillance team. Surveillance is the monitoring of behavior and close observation of a person or group of people of concern or under suspicion. Static surveillance is observing activities from a non-mobile location such as an outdoor area. The SST is headed by an executive magistrate. 3 to 4 police personnel will be in the team. CAPF will also be in the team and a videographer. SST will start functioning from the date of notification of election and they will work till the date of poll. To put checkposts on the major roads, expenditure sensitive pockets, border roads of district and state to check movement of illegal cash, liquor, arms or gift items. They will work in the 3 shifts. Any type of checking by the SST shall be done in the presence of the executive magistrate. No such checking shall take place without the executive magistrate. Seizure to be done with proper panchanama or the acknowledgement. The entire process shall be videographed. DVD will be handed over to the accounting team for keeping in the folder of evidence. Any member of the public may ask and take a copy of the video CD or the DVD for a particular day by depositing ₹50. Items likely to be used for inducement of electors are cash exceeding ₹50,000 is found in a vehicle carrying a candidate or his agent or party worker. Any amount exceeding ₹10,000, that is election related materials or any drugs, liquor, arms or gift items. Any other illicit articles are found in a vehicle, then the same shall be subject to seizure. Whole event of checking and the seizure to be videographed and CD shall be submitted to the Assistant Expenditure Observer or the returning officer. Release of cash. So there will be a committee to release the cash headed by the CEO. Nodal officer expenditure monitoring of the district will be one of the member and district treasury officer will also be a member of the team. Release of other seizure items. It is the responsibility of the returning officer to bring all cases of seizure before the appellate committee and to release cash or the valuables as per the order of the appellate committee. Daily activity report. FST and SST to submit a daily activity report in the prescribed format to the expenditure observer, district election officer, SP, RO and the assistant expenditure observer. Video surveillance team. So there will be a one official and one videographer and one vehicle will be provided to the team. There can be more than one team at a public meeting. They will be properly trained to identify and capture model code of conduct related violation and expenditure related events in adequate minute details as prescribed. VST will capture the photo in such a way that the evidence of each vehicle, furniture, rostrum, banner, cutout, etc. can be seen clearly and the expenses thereon can be estimated. At the end of the shooting, the team may also record in a voice mode the estimated number and type of vehicles chairs, furniture, approximate size of rostrum, banner, poster, cutout, etc. used in the event. This team will prepare a video cue sheet in the prescribed format. Video viewing team. So there will be a video viewing team in each assembly segment having one officer and two clerks. They will view video CD provided by the VST for identifying election expenditure and model code of conduct related violations. They will submit report containing candidate-wise expenditure not later than next day to the accounting team or assistant expenditure observer. MCC related report will be given to the general observer and the returning officer. Accounting team. There will be one official and one accounting clerk per segment. They will be drafted from employees of the accounting wing of central government departments. They will work under the assistant expenditure observer. They shall be involved in preparation of shadow observation register and maintaining video CD evidence carefully in evidence folder to maintain proper backup which can be called by the commission later on. They will enter expenditure incurred by the candidate on major expenses and corresponding notify rates against each item in the shadow observation register reported by various teams and calculate the total expenditure of the event observed for each candidate. Excise team or liquor team. One of the objectives of the election expenditure is to curb measures on items which are not permitted under the law. For example, distribution of money, liquor, or any other item disbursed and given to the electors with the intent to influencing them. This expenditure comes under the definition of bribery, which is an offence both under the IPC and the RP Act 1951. The team will work from the date of announcement of election till completion of election. The production, offtake, stock limits of stockists and retailers of Indian-made foreign liquor, beer, country liquor are to be monitored district-wise. Opening and closing of liquor vending shops are to be closely monitored. Intensive vigil over interstate movement of vehicles at district checkposts and border checkposts by special enforcement staff of Excise Department. They will conduct raids to seize illicit liquor, inter-state coordination of excise commissioners of the bordering states, district level nodal officer to submit report every alternate day to district election officer, expenditure observer and state level nodal officer who will compile the state level report to the commission and CU. All distilleries, warehouses shall be put under 24/7 CCTV monitoring with police guard so that no liquor is released without license. Expenditure Monitoring Cell. This cell at district level will consist of a nodal officer on behalf of district election officer of the rank of SDM or ADM and two officials who will be in charge of the expenditure monitoring training and coordination with all other teams engaged in the expenditure monitoring. The team will be responsible for expenditure monitoring efforts in the district, providing manpower and logistic support like space and equipment. Training of the assistant expenditure observers and all the officials engaged in the various teams should be done by these nodal officers of expenditure monitoring cell in the district as soon as the elections are announced. The cell will keep custody of all the shadow observation registers and folders of evidence after the poll. Nodal officer of the EMC, that is expenditure monitoring cell, shall act as the link between the district election officer and the expenditure observer. Expenditure monitoring cell will assess the district election officer and the expenditure observer in finalizing the scrutiny report to be submitted after the declaration of result. District level control room to operate from the date of announcement of election. Toll-free telephone number with 3 to 4 hunting lines. Copies of all complaints and reports of inquiries shall be put on the notice board of the returning officer. Any member of the public can obtain copies of these documents on payment of fee of ₹1 per page. All complaints filed with the district level complaint monitoring cell to be recorded and investigated. Expenditure sensitive constituencies. Expenditure sensitive constituencies are identified by the Chief Electoral Officer based on profile of the constituency and the candidate and past developments. Extra assisted expenditure observer can be put in expenditure sensitive constituencies. More FST and SST with CAPF. Expenditure sensitive pockets. The district election officer and SP, in consultation with the expenditure observer, shall identify the expenditure sensitive pockets in the constituency based on level of education, development and demography. Expenditure sensitive pockets to be kept under close watch all the time. They will be put under 24/7 check post during the last 72 hours before the poll. Expenditure sensitive pockets need more campaign for ethical voting. Liquor sale to be closely monitored. Role of district election officer in election expenditure monitoring. The district election officer shall hold a meeting of all the recognized national and state level political parties within 3 days of the announcement of elections and shall explain all the legal provisions and instructions of related to election expenditure monitoring and consequences of failure to comply with them. District Expenditure Monitoring Committee. This committee will be headed by the expenditure observer, district election officer and deputy DO or officer in charge of the EMC of the district. Account reconciliation meeting. The account reconciliation meeting shall be attended by the expenditure observer, district election officer, deputy DO or the officer in charge of the election monitoring committee, candidates or their election agents. The meeting of account reconciliation committee will be convened by the district election officer on the 26th day of the declaration of result. Candidates shall be given another opportunity to reconcile the understatement of their election expenditure, if any. Reconcile of disputed items of the election expenditure in their accounts of election expenses with the evidence gathered during election process and the notices issued by the returning officer. If no notice on the understatement had been issued to the candidate during the election process, the district election officer is to issue letter within 15 days of declaration of result to obtain reply of the candidate. Both letter and the reply to be considered in the meeting shall be informed to the Commission with the recorded views of the DEMC. The District Expenditure Monitoring Committee shall scrutinize the accounts and where the differences could not be reconciled, shall pass an order within 72 hours giving reasons and serve it on the candidate or their agent on the same day. If the candidate agrees with the DMC order, they may incorporate the same in their final accounts. If the candidate has already lodged their account prior to the meeting, they may revise the account within a period of 30 days of the declaration of result. Scrutiny of accounts. Scrutiny of accounts will be done after the receipt of the final account from the candidates. The same shall be scrutinized by the District Expenditure Monitoring Committee. If the candidate does not agree with the District Expenditure Monitoring Committee order, they may lodge their final account with the District Election Officer with the reasons for the disagreement by way of a letter to the DO. In such a case of disagreement, the District Election Officer shall, along with the scrutiny report, DMC report, all certified copies of the relevant documents, account register, notices, replies, forward to the CEO for necessary action. Register of day-to-day account. The register of day-to-day account along with the bank passbook has to be prepared by the candidate and produced before expenditure observer or any other authorized person for inspection on notified dates. If any discrepancy is pointed out, candidate has to reconcile the difference within stipulated time. Any public can get the copy of the register after inspection on payment of ₹1 per page. Aircraft landing. The candidate or party shall inform about the travel plan of the aircraft or helicopter 24 hours in advance for landing and takeoff in non-commercial airports to district election officer for security purposes. Candidate shall inform the returning officer concerned within 5 days of landing about the hiring charges paid or payable for helicopter or the aircraft and the name of the political party in case hiring charges are borne by the political party. Dummy candidates. If the vehicle permitted to any independent candidate or any other candidate is found carrying campaign material of some another candidate or being used for campaign for any other candidate, the vehicle permission will be withdrawn. Action under the Section 171H of IPC shall also be initiated against those dummy candidates by filing cases under that section. Increasing of expenditure in any manner without the authorization of the candidate is an offence under the Section 171H. Section 171H of IPC says, without the written permission from a candidate, incurs or authorizes expenses on public meeting or any advertisement, circular or publication, or in any other way whatsoever for the purpose of promoting or procuring of election of such candidate. If violation occurs, then punishment with fine up to ₹500. The returning officer or the observer should issue notice to the candidate in whose favor the dummy candidate was found to be operating, asking him to include the expenditure incurred by the dummy candidate into his election expenditure. Role of returning officer in election expenditure monitoring. The returning officer shall hold a meeting of all the candidates immediately after the allotment of symbols. They shall explain all the legal provisions and instructions relating to election expenditure monitoring and the consequences of failure to comply with them. The assistant expenditure observer or expenditure observer shall also attend this meeting along with the returning officer. They shall also give a copy of election expenditure compendium and notification of rates of items of election expenditure to each candidate. For advertisement in the local or national dailies, magazines, either in English or regional language, rates of the DAVP or DPIR shall also be communicated to the candidates. They shall issue permission letters for vehicles, public meetings, etc. promptly to the candidates as required under the law. They shall also give the expenditure register duly signed and page number to the candidates at the time of filing of nomination papers. They shall notify the dates for inspection of accounts by the expenditure observer during the campaign period and shall issue notices to the candidates to explain any discrepancy between the candidate expenditure register and the shadow observation register as advised by the expenditure observer. They shall supervise the complaint monitoring system and ensure that every complaint is inquired into within 24 hours of receipt. They shall ensure that all the documents required to be put up on the notice board of the returning officer are put up. They shall ensure that the copies of the documents, when demanded, are given immediately to the members of the public on payment of the prescribed fees. They shall issue notices to the defaulting candidates as suggested by the expenditure observer. They shall also ensure that after seizure is made by the FST and the SST, the FIR is filed promptly. As per the Section 77 of RP Act 1951, every candidate shall either by himself or through their election agent keeps a separate account and correct account of all the election expenditure between the date of nomination and the date of declaration of result. Candidates are required to lodge their accounts of election expenses with the district election officer within 30 days of declaration of result along with the register of election expenses. Documents required to be filed are Part 1 to Part 4 and Schedule 1 to 10 of abstract statement signed by the candidate, certified copy of bank statement, affidavit signed by the candidate, register of day-to-day account along with all the bills and vouchers in original duly signed, copies of expenditure related notices issued by the returning officer and replies to such notices, replies to discrepancies pointed out at the time of inspection. Every candidate is permitted to appoint an additional agent for assisting the candidate in various election related matters. Inspection of accounts. Returning officer shall prepare a schedule of inspection of expenditure register of each candidate by the expenditure observer or a senior officer designated by the RO in consultation with the expenditure observer for the purpose. The candidate or the election agent or through the authorized person is required to produce the register before the expenditure observer for inspection at least 3 times during the campaign period. The gap between 2 inspections should be at least 3 days. The schedule shall be given wide publicity through the press. The timing of inspection may be between 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Inspection work should be completed before 7 p.m. The inspection should be done either in the office of the RO or any other conference room or the office chamber. The last inspection should not be done before 3 days from the day of poll. After every inspection during the election process, the day-to-day election account register of a candidate shall be scanned till the date of inspection and uploaded on the DO's portal and also display photocopy on the notice board. If election expenditure register is not provided by the candidate on the inspection date, a notice shall be issued by the returning officer in writing. Candidate will be informed that if he again fails to produce the register on the inspection date, it shall be presumed that he has failed to maintain a day-to-day account of election expenditure. Candidate will be informed that maintaining a day-to-day account of election expenditure is must under the Section 77 of RP Act 1951. Section 77 says, every candidate shall keep the correct account of all expenditure in connection with the election. The notice shall be given the widest publicity and a copy shall be displayed on the notice board of the returning officer. If in spite of the notice, the candidate fails to produce the register of election expenditure for inspection, a complaint under the Section 171I of IPC shall be filed in the competent court. Section 171I of IPC says, if a candidate fails to keep the election account, then the candidate may be punished with a fine up to ₹500. Also, if the candidate does not produce the register after 3 days of serving of the notice, the permission given to the candidate for use of vehicles during the election period should be withdrawn. The withdrawal of permission for use of vehicle shall be intimated to all the SST and the FST and displayed on the notice board. Anybody can obtain a copy of the expenditure register of any candidate on payment of ₹1 per page from the returning officer. The inspection of register should be done as far as possible by the expenditure observers only. In this educational video, we have learned about the role of returning officer in election expenditure monitoring. If you have any doubt or want any clarification, then you can contact through the mail as shown on the screen. For other videos on rules and regulations, you can visit the web address as shown. Thank you.